Afternoon. It's a beautiful afternoon, and it's very nice of you to spend it with us at the Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation, one of our regular school board meetings here in the administration building. So thank you all for being with us. We usually start our meetings with reflections from one of our colleagues, and this evening it is Mr. Pat Bryant.
Thank you, Madam President. As I stated before, this is not a reflection, but more of a public service request. I work at Bartholomew County Public Library, and I want to thank the Art Council for putting history on our plaza this year rather than 1,000 pounds or more of dirt and flowers that nobody really knew the name of. If you enter into the front off of 5th Street, you'll walk through a maze, a little bit of a maze of history reference to Columbus. Off on the left-hand side, you will see the arch. The arch was made by Mr. Henry Moore. This is also a situation where that arch is standing, is that where the first Bartholomew County Public Library stood, the stone stood there. Even though we are 50 years old, we have a lot of up-to-date modern stuff that people would like to see. We have people coming around from all over the world reference to seeing the buildings here in Bartholomew County, and I am so proud that I am working at one of those buildings that they come to see. If you enter, you're going to be greeted by some of our employees, and they're going to tell you, "Welcome to Bartholomew County Public Library. How are you today, and what can we greet you with or help you with?" If you continue on past the front desk, you walk into the reference department. Before you turn into the reference department, turn around and look towards the church across the street, which is First Street, a Christian church. You'll see that through the big glass there, that the arch, the across the street is going to be symmetrically right in line with the glass. And across the stones, there's 12 stones, which stands for the 12 apostles. There's a lot of things that people look at and don't even realize, even those who was born here in Bartholomew County. If you go into the reference department, you have some people that's going to greet you, that's going to help you find books, maps, addresses if you need to. These are people that are really good at their job, and it is fun just to sit and watch them help people get where they need to go. We also have computers that people can sit down and use those computers. All of this is free. All of this is for people of Bartholomew County, and I'm surprised the amount of people that don't take the opportunity to do this. Downstairs we have a children's department. In the children's department, you're going to find all kinds of toys, books, and you have, again, some people that's going to greet you. We have a situation of different projects, different exhibits. At the present time, we have a civil rights exhibit. We also have 9/11, the Civil War exhibit that is there. So all of these things are free, and people are not taking advantage of them. It's funny to me because we also have a situation of different programs that goes on. We have programs for people who like to do yoga. We have programs for yoga as far as kids is concerned. We have a program where kids can come in and read to one of our dogs. All of this is free. And these are people that really, truly love serving the public. Because if they didn't, it wouldn't be in that building, that's for sure. So I'm inviting you, I'm requesting, I'm begging, please come down to Bartholomew County Public Library and see what we have to offer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been there many times. All right. If you will and are able, if you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, this takes a little while to get me organized. We're all here. All 7 of our Board of Trustees members are here, so we certainly have a quorum, and I'll call this meeting to order. As we share here on the slide and on the behind us, our mission and our vision, which guide the work of our school board each and every meeting. We also have listed here our high expectation objectives, again, with more detail and more focus on our goals and objectives of our work. So just that you're reminded what guides us each meeting. All right, I'm excited about this one. So our first presentation, I'm going to turn to Mr. Jensen and Mr. Johnson to tell us about the high school design team and their Exhibit Columbus presentation.
Okay, now where are we going? We're really excited to have this group here tonight. It was pretty fascinating because one of the things we've heard in several meetings is this has been one of the exhibits that has been so highly regarded by visiting people as well as visiting architects. And this was done by our students at C4. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Johnson and his wonderful, talented team. Okay, they're ready to go. All right.
I would just like to say and start off, thanks for having us. This is a great opportunity to show our work over the past year. Over the course of the last year, we've dug very deep into the prompt that we were given, and we've spent a lot of hard work and a lot of time getting to really sink our teeth into something that honestly not a lot of high school students get to experience and get to work on in high school. Over the summer, I was part of a summer program for architecture, and I was describing my process and like what I was doing for that summer and why I was occasionally missing some sessions. But besides the point, they were all very intrigued that this is something that high schoolers can do, and we're very lucky in Columbus to have C4 as such an outlet to provide opportunities for us. So this is our 2021 project, Tunnel Vision. It documents the architectural history of Columbus and the significance of several buildings that are in Columbus. It documents their significance, like I said, and I'll pass it on to the next person.
Okay, so can you guys hear me?
Could you do me a favor? Could you introduce yourself so that we know whom we're meeting?
My name is Ishan Mehta, and I'm a senior at Columbus North High School.
Thank you.
My name is Grishma Pitkar, and I am a sophomore at Columbus North High School.
Hello, my name is Miguel Martinez. I'm a senior at Columbus North High School.
My name is Naris Hernandez, and I'm a senior at CSA New Tech.
I'm Owen Hebo, and I'm a junior at East.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so one of the first few steps of this entire process was brainstorming. So over the first few weeks of school, we architecture students from the C4 architecture program at Columbus North gathered to brainstorm some ideas to reflect on the topic that was given to us for Exhibit Columbus 2020, which was new middles. So as you can see on the bottom there, these were some of our first ideas that we developed as a team. And after a few more sessions of meeting together, we developed on the top some of the key ideas that would later influence our project. So like Ishan said, our project is a geodesic tunnel which highlights all of the major architectural buildings throughout Columbus. And we wanted to do this to educate people from Columbus and outsiders coming in about Columbus as a city and why it is so important.
This right here was an initial render that we proposed and submitted to the Exhibit Columbus Foundation, and later on you'll see our process in developing it.
So how we choose what building we would use, we kind of started at the visitor center's pan flip, and from there we kind of crossed off any buildings we thought that was not needed, but then also consolidated some buildings like the 5 fire stations that were on the pan flip. And our triangles look like this, and we basically use this template with the QR code and the vector image of the building, the year, and then the name of the building. And how we got the vector image was really finding an image of the building itself, either by using the public library's resources, Mr. Johnson's photos he had in his files, and also going there and taking a photo of it ourselves if we couldn't really find a good photo. And we really wanted to incorporate any key aspects of each building. For example, the First Christian Church has the key aspect of the clock tower, so we made sure to include it into the triangle.
Every building represented in our exhibit has 2 videos about it, one in English and one in Spanish. It took about 3 months to script every single video in both English and Spanish, and an additional 3.5 months to fully script everything. Each of the Spanish videos was recorded by one of our native speakers that we had on our team.
So one of the ideas that we drew from our prompt was the idea of the future of the Middle City, which was a big aspect of the project itself. So Miguel and I, we took upon the task of developing a concept for the future of Columbus, what Columbus can become as inspired by the past. So we developed a 1.5-minute animation over this. This was our final shot, which represents the very start of modern architecture in Columbus, which is so crucial and so important to Columbus's name as an architectural landmark. And at the very end was a building that we developed completely new. We decided that it would be a great idea to take a look at architects who were huge in the modern landscape that never ended up coming to Columbus. This is specifically influenced by architect Paul Rudolph and his works, and these ideas carried on throughout the entire process of developing this concept of future Columbus.
So during this whole entire process that Sean and I that we went through, we had a bit of trouble in the beginning, with trying to figure out how the future was going to be, because that is such a vast question, and it's really hard to answer with all the things that go on with time. And so we had actually brainstormed a few ideas and gone through a lot of mistakes and everything like that, but we decided that we wanted to keep the roots throughout Columbus, and decided that, that some things will change and some things we will keep, and we never know what the future will hold.
We decided that it was very important to obviously keep the landmarks, as we couldn't really touch those, obviously. But we also decided to reach out to the community, and we actually put out a survey for high schoolers and adults to take, and we also surveyed elementary school classrooms to find out what their ideas would be for the future, because those elementary school students, be it that they might not be as much younger than us, but they will still be the future. So we took their ideas and we tried to incorporate them throughout our concept for the future. But yeah, as Miguel said, no one knows what the future will hold. This is only our interpretation of it.
The tunnel itself was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be to build. Having the conduit was not flexible at all. But starting from the bottom, we really needed a lot of hands putting the conduit together and putting the screws through. And as we built upwards, at the very top of the tunnel, it got 10 times harder, and we needed a lot more hands pushing and pulling separate parts of the tunnel, allowing us to put the screw through, building the tunnel itself and the base.
Okay, the structure included over 130 triangles in total, made out of polyethylene plastic. About half of them were blue and the other half were green. Every other blue triangle had an engraving on the building we used a CNC machine for. And along with the engraving, there's also a QR code with links to the above mentioned videos.
The idea of the blue triangles came from the importance of the rivers in Columbus, and we made sure that it created a linear form that matched the linear form of the GSIC tunnel that we used, which was a key thematic element of our project, and that is filled in by the space of the green triangles. If you go take a look, you'll immediately recognize the pattern of the blue triangles forming the snake of a river.
So we wanted to make sure that each triangle had a specific spot so that we could create a timeline that would start from some of the oldest architectural buildings to some of the newest, and as Ishan said, to what would be our vision of the future. So as far as the installation goes, we wanted to make sure that it was an efficient process, so we used zip ties and attached them to the frame of the tunnel.
And all this project has been very impactful to me to be able to see like the design process from beginning to end, and it's been very rewarding to see many people use it, not just people around Columbus, but like students at Central Middle School reading SSR under it. So it's just been rewarding to see people use it fully.
Yeah, to add on to that, I would just like to say that for me it was a really different experience because I had never done anything like this before, and I also got to do a lot of hands-on work, which I also enjoyed.
So I'm actually from Ohio, and I came here about 8 years ago, and so, you know, I came here with a different view on architecture and everything like that, and this was something that I wanted to pursue with, you know, building things and designing them, and I definitely felt like this whole experience was a very educational experience, and it truly taught me on my views and worships in architecture and what I want to do. It taught me how to work closely with friends and also peers during this whole entire process.
Working on this project as a lead with the scripting and the videos, it has taught me many things, like how to work with a small group of people to get a quality product out in a timely manner while still adhering to strict timetables, which is an increasingly important part of the modern workspace. It's also given me a newfound respect for the Exhibit Columbus program.
I would say overall, this is something that none of us will ever forget. Even when we get deep into our careers, this will still be a highlight, as it is for so many of the other wonderful designers that were able to participate. This is something that we'll all share together forever. Overall, the process, what we hope that it brings to Columbus is a sense of renewed passion and love for the architecture that we have. We hope that it's not being taken for granted as it may seem on a day-to-day basis. But what we have in Columbus is truly special. And again, we'd like to say thanks to the C4 program and Dr. Hack over there. Thanks. And yeah, this project for us was unexpected. I certainly didn't think that this would be something I'd do, and it's going to be unforgettable for all of us. So just like Columbus, unexpected, unforgettable. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So could you clarify, do I understand that each QR code has a video? Yes. In English and Spanish? Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Okay.
So during this whole entire thing with taking a video, and they're both educational, and both of them are in English and Spanish. We actually only had 2 Spanish speakers for this whole entire thing, which included myself and someone else, which was not fun at times, because trying to work on your work and trying to help out others is definitely hard, but we got it done. But the English part, most of you will understand, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
In total, I believe we recorded, edited, and scripted about 102 videos overall. But yeah.
So this
All worth it.
mask is hiding major wonder, just so you know. Wow, all right. So, go ahead, please.
What were some of the other concepts you guys came up with? You're brainstorming words, and that was kind of drawing me in. What other ideas did you
So
have?
some of the other concepts that we came up with were kind of like advancement, past versus future, that you kind of can see reflecting on our his timeline throughout Columbus, and just indigenous design, and so on.
I think in the intro class they didn't speak as much on like the actual structural ideas, but in the advanced class we had discussed perhaps taking building methods used by indigenous tribes local to our specific area in Columbus. I think there were ideas thrown around to incorporate the geodesic tunnel idea in a different manner. I know that initially we had also talked about doing an actual circular dome with the same triangle concept, but in the end this won out as it was easier to engage with and so much easier to build as well.
So I have to tell you, my daughter turned 7 on the day that exhibit Columbus opened. So I brought a ton of 7-year-old girls in a big minivan, and we went downtown. And this was the highlight for them. They spent the most time in there. Each of them asked for a phone. They were super engaged. It was shaded. I mean, that was really smart for when that came out, provided a little shade. So it was just really smart. We spent a lot of time there. It was all very enjoyable. It was probably my favorite exhibit. So just really remarkable.
Wonderful. Other questions?
I have something to add about that. So we actually wanted it to be both educational and a very good experience for both all ages. That's the one thing that we had actually was scared about, that, being youthful and everything like that, you have a harder attention span to things. And so we were trying to reach all audiences, both older and newer, with the technology use, which a lot of newer people like, but then it was still easy and practical for a lot of other people that have a hard technological experience.
Yes, Mr. Stenner.
Thanks for coming tonight, and thanks for your work on the project. There's 5 of you here, and Mr. Johnson. How many people got to be involved in the project overall from the very beginning?
I think over the entire course of the project, it ended up being about 60 kids overall who touched the project in a collaborative I don't know. 60 kids overall worked on the project at various times, but obviously there were a few key leaders. 5 of them are here, but some of them obviously graduated. Chase Jones, Brody Copus are 2 of the, and Angie Hernandez are 3 of the named people who spent a lot of time working on the project. And of course, our building trades class, they put in a lot of work. Andrew Kruger from there spent a lot of time over the summer coming in and helping us put this together.
That's great, thank you.
So I love that it models, so you've said building trades, your architect class. I can't even fathom all the skills that are associated with that. But then also the artwork, the photography, and the history that you had to do, and then synthesizing all of that into these short videos. I think the complexity and the integration of the project is most impressive. I don't know if, and I assume out of 60, you were able to find the individuals that was their strengths and or interests. But I wonder if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so not only was it the architecture and building trades class that worked on this, we also had help from the graphic design class for the QR codes.
Great.
We had a student, her name was Caitlin Gibson. She actually designed these shirts for us.
Nice.
And She formatted the QR codes so that we could send them off to Tony London to get them printed. So she was an essential part in getting this made as well. So big shout out to her. But yeah, we actually did all of the synthesizing early on in the project. We put all of the information together. We had a team specifically dedicated to writing the scripts and editing the videos, and Owen here was the one that was mainly in charge of putting the audio, or collecting the audio. And then we kind of broke off into 4 distinct groups: the future group, the vector image and triangle group, the editing group, and the audio group. So overall, we kind of put all of that together. We knew what we were working towards, and we knew that it would all come together in the end. And we're very happy with how it turned out, and all that work was put to good
As you should be. So learning that collaboration and teamwork is indispensable, I can say. Are there other comments or questions? I could talk to you all night, but we have other things to do.
Sure.
Any other?
Great
just-
job. Great
I'll
job.
just comment, Dr. Shedd, on, I'm not sure where Darren Johnson, so if you didn't see Darren, school board members helped lead this project, did a great job. The students, right, Darren was awesome. Dr. Hack with C4, I think it was referenced to already, so thank you to the C4 program and Darren for their hard work. Thanks, kids, for the awesome job that you have done. I think this is the second or third time I've seen a presentation from you or some kind of recognition, but outstanding work on your behalf. And I think you did a nice job, Dr. Shedd, of synthesizing all the things they had to bring together to make this work.
Right.
And Mr. Bryant started off with the PSA, public service announcement, so I guess mine would be to make sure you stop by and see the exhibit that the students have put together there. It's right in front of Central Middle School, so easily accessible, and check it out.
Yes, thank you for representing us so well. You make us all very proud.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, I'll jump into...
You won't beat that,
No,
so
I
don't
don't.
even try.
I will not even try, and I'll be as brief as I possibly can. My graphics aren't very good, and everything else compared to that. So just a quick update on the numbers that we have, which we try to keep you updated from board meeting to board meeting. Those are the 2 graphics of our state from both the CDC and the Department of Health, and where we would be as a state. And then from the COVID-19 task force, they put these numbers up every Monday and Thursday. This was actually Thursday's numbers. So Jen, I don't know if you saw what today's numbers were or not, but 72 were where they were at the end of last week in terms of the new positive cases in one day. Hospitalizations around 35, but those again adjust from day to day. And then our own internal numbers we always share with you as well. And just reminding you that last year in our first quarter with fall break, we had 29 positive test cases. We went to e-learning on November the 9th, which was 106 positive test cases. As I've said before, most of that operational, not only the 36 staff members out because of testing positive, but the many close contacts we had, and then just creating some challenges with that. The first 25 days of this year, so I actually get into 26 because those numbers were updated at the end of the day today. 326 positive test cases. That is 290 students and 36 staff members. So you can see the proportion even from the staff members piece. We've had the same number of staff members as we did the first quarter, but the number of students has dramatically increased. The close contacts now over 1,600, approaching 1,700, and 876 students also sent home, perhaps have a pending test. They would be symptomatic with symptoms similar to COVID-19. And then just the asterisk that's in there is that 85 of our close contacts have later tested positive, which is around 5.1%. And that number is not large, of course, and 95% have not and returned to us. But when we look at last year's numbers, it was less than 1% of the students who were close contacts then tested positive. So going from less than 1% to 5.1%, at least at this current time. So those are the numbers that we have right now. I do not have any other specific recommendations for you on our mitigation strategies at this point.
May I ask one question?
You may.
So one of our issues when we went to e-learning was staffing.
Yep.
and it was 36, and we're at 36 now. So is there something different about the distribution of our staff who have the positive tests?
We just don't have the same number of staff absent. So although that's
Okay.
36 staff members that were positive by that time,
Okay.
they were not, or the accumulation of positive cases at that moment, the number of close contacts at that moment, and the number of people also out because of symptoms of staff at that moment created the operational issues. That's not the case here.
Okay.
Less close contacts of staff members, less symptomatic people from a staff member standpoint. So that number, although the same as it was in November of last year, has not created operational issues to the extent that they would create an e-learning situation or whatever at this point. In regards to e-learning and looking at that as a possibility, which is not something we want to go to. We don't want to have to go to the hybrid model or anything. We want to keep our students in person, in class. If we would have to make an adjustment, we would start small in terms of looking at a classroom first, or maybe if there was a certain number of students out in a grade level or a hallway, looking at that, and then a school building before we would look at the entire school corporation. And I think you're all aware of the different school corporations who have either had school buildings or the entire school corporation close at some point already this school year, much earlier than last year in terms of those kinds of situations. So we're trying to avoid that at all costs at this point in time.
Okay. Are there other questions people have?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Sure, please.
So in light of the, in regards to the numbers that are up there, Dr. Roberts, has there been any discussion or consideration at all with the governor's new directives about those kids identified as a close contact?
Yes.
The contact procedure continues on, and, parents, guardians notified and given, the option to keep an eye on them, and quarantine if they so choose, or if their child remains asymptomatic, to go ahead and send them to school.
Yeah, daily discussion around that, Mr. Grimes. So in-depth and thorough in terms of taking a look at what the governor's executive order tended to include. So just clarification for everybody's sake in terms of the governor's executive order gave the Department of Health's commissioner the authority then to adapt or adjust the quarantine guidelines as needed. And so she has indicated that close contacts can be allowed to stay in school if in certain settings. And so if that's within the classroom, so classroom only, those close contacts, if everybody is masked properly, so every single person in that classroom and 3 feet or greater. And so that's something that we've taken a look at. Our challenge was, as we are looking at the numbers that we have, and the quarantining of close contacts has been a mitigation strategy in place now for quite some time, is that with increasing numbers, so our numbers continue to increase. We're not on the other side of things yet in terms of going the other direction, and with the percentage of individuals that are close contacts now testing positive, again, 5.1%, but that's a 500% increase versus what we had last year. That it didn't seem at this moment the right time to take advantage of that flexibility. We appreciate that flexibility. It's a good thing that the governor, the Department of Health, has taken a look at that and said, here are some options to consider. But it is flexibility. It's not a mandate from the governor's office. And we will daily take a look at that flexibility to see how we can utilize it as we go forward. But just the numbers at this point in time has put us on hold in terms of all mitigation strategies and not looking to change those at this time.
Okay. I do know that I think maybe down south, Floyd, New Albany, that area, I know they've taken advantage of it. Well, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but they are offering parents the option of kids who have been identified as close contacts, and I think that's probably only been the beginning of 2 weeks. Was that a week?
Yeah, so it
and
would be the governor's order came out 2 weeks on Wednesday, so it will be 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. So most corporations, I think, there were some that reacted immediately. Mm-hmm. Others said we're going to chew on this for a minute and see what the situations are and what opportunities we have. And as you mentioned, school corporations, maybe like Floyd and others, have started to make that decision. So I don't know what their numbers are. I don't know what their situation is in terms of internally, or even how many close contacts that they had was impacting. But it is certainly, and I think your terminology was right, taking advantage of that is something that it does get students back to school that otherwise would be quarantined because of the close contact tracing.
So you would say that is something to keep, that we'll continue to keep in mind at least?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I just, think about the hardships on parents, arguably. I don't know what teachers in this corporation, and as a teacher myself, it's kids that go on quarantine, and it's painful to see them go home for a number of days and oftentimes not do much of anything and come back and start at ground zero.
Sure.
And I realize, like you said, the 1% to 5%. So
Yeah.
Did the mandate allow for a middle ground? So perhaps you still quarantine, but you reduce the amount of quarantine time to allow, a period for maybe symptoms to show up?
Really good question, Ms. Wood. And I don't know that I'm going to say yes, because by going to 0 on the number of days of quarantine, when previously the numbers were 7, 10, and 14 with various things attached to them, if you brought a student back before 14 days, there were criteria that had to be checked before the student was really back in class. That since they went from 7, 10, 14 to 0, that there's the possibility of finding some middle ground in there. Is it a different number of days? Is it other circumstances? Is it other checks of the student as they come back to the building? So I think the answer is yes, that there are some possibilities we could look at, even if it's not 0.
I've got one more quick thing. Are there still disposable masks made available to kids as they enter the building this year?
Anybody who enters without a mask would have the opportunity to take advantage of a.
How's the supply of those? Is it still?
I think it is still very, very high. Dr. Bozeman, others, high mask quantity at this point, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Those are great questions to offer clarification. I appreciate that. All right. Next is public comments. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take the prerogative to offer some comments here at the beginning because I am concerned. I do appreciate